A few weeks ago, the Sixers and Celtics made a blockbuster trade, sending Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange for 2 first-rounders and Paul George. Let's just say NBA media went crazy. At a glance, it was clear that the Sixers had won this trade, and fans were quick to call out Brad Stevens and the Celtics front office for this questionable move. But I myself, a slow to judge and level-headed man who also loves the Sixers, was not so certain about the move. Just kidding. I also thought Brad Stevens was an idiot and the Sixers had won the trade. However, I did start seeing some interesting posts online that made the stat nerd in me a little bit uneasy. Maybe you also saw this screenshot or one very similar online. A tweet or a Reddit post with a table full of numbers and Jaylen Brown's name sitting lower than you'd expect. Darko has him around 40th in the NBA. EPM has him at 56. LeBron says he wasn't even a top 4 Celtic last season, and Laker has a role player like Matisse Thybulle rating well ahead of him. 3-year RIPM, one of the oldest metrics we have, puts him at 283rd. That's scary. And on the surface, it's a little jarring for a 4-time All-Star, NBA champion, and Finals MVP. So what do we do with that? I don't think the right move is wave it away and pretend like the numbers don't matter. I like advanced stats, and this channel is built on taking them seriously. But I also don't think the right move is to overreact and think that the Sixers took an overrated or declining player. The truth is likely somewhere in the middle, and it comes down to understanding what each of these metrics is actually built to measure. Let's quickly go through all 5 and see the bums ranked ahead of them. Just kidding. Let's take an objective approach. Stat 1, Darko. Jaylen Brown's Darko puts him at 1.8, which ranks him around 40th in the NBA. This puts him right around Julian Champagnie, with De'Aaron Fox and Isaiah Hartenstein ranking slightly above him. Taken at face value, this reads like Brown is barely a top 40 player. That's worth sitting with for a second instead of dismissing outright. But it's also not really what Darko is designed to tell you. Darko, short for Daily Adjusted and Regressed Kalman Optimized Projections, also known as Daily Plus Minus or DPM, is one of the better publicly available predictive metrics in basketball. The key word is predictive. It's not ranking the league's best players. It's estimating how many points per 100 possessions a player is expected to impact games going forward, using box score production, on-off data, tracking data, lineup context, and aging curves. Here's an example of why Brown might get lower ratings than we expect. Isaiah Hartenstein is a genuinely good basketball player. Elite screens, rebounding, high efficiency near the rim, and rim protection. Those are things impact models pick up cleanly. That doesn't mean most people would take Hartenstein over Brown if they were building a contender, and the same goes for Champagnie and Fox. Part of the gap is role. Brown is asked to create difficult shots late in the clock, attack set defenses, and carry a heavy scoring load. This comes with more turnovers and lower efficiency than a role built around finishing plays someone else created. Part of it is also context. Brown has played almost his entire career next to another star on a deep Celtics roster. And even this past season, that Celtic team has a bunch of advanced stat darlings. Models built on lineup data genuinely struggle to cleanly separate credit when multiple good players share the floor constantly. Darko is really good at spotting underrated role players and projecting a future impact. It's less equipped to answer who is the better basketball player. If it says Brown and Champagnie provide similar value, that's less of an indictment of Brown and more of a sign the model is answering a more narrow question than the one most of us are asking. Next up, estimated plus minus or EPM. Jaylen Brown checks in at 2.2, ranking 56th in the NBA. Colin Gillespie, Paul Reed, and yes, Paul George are notable players ranking ahead of him. Paul Reed made me do the biggest double take here, because even though he had a great season with the Pistons, I know Paul Reed quite well as a Sixers fan. But once again, It's important to understand why he has the greater EPM before deciding what to make of it. EPM estimates points per 100 possessions a player adds compared to a league average player. It sounds very similar to Darko, because it is, except this metric is not predictive. It's descriptive. It starts from adjusted plus minus, team performance with a player on the floor versus off it, adjusted for teammates and opponents, then blends in box score production and play-by-play data to stabilize the estimate. It's a strong metric, but it's still measuring impact within a role, not raw talent. Like Hartenstein from earlier, Reed's role is very narrow. Defend, rebound, protect the rim, finish easy looks. He isn't being asked to create his own offense or take tough shots. Brown is. When we look at a guard like Colin Gillespie, his minutes are limited and tailored to lineups that flatter his skill set. And again, years spent next to Jason Tatum on a stacked roster make it genuinely hard for any plus-minus model to cleanly split credit. So EPM is genuinely good for identifying undervalued role players and measuring lineup fit, but it's not designed well to settle who you'd rather build a team around. It's a different, harder question that involves shot creation, matchups, and performance under pressure, none of which EPM is really built to weigh. Moving to LeBron, no, this isn't named after LeBron James. LeBron stands for Luck Adjusted Estimated Box Prior Regularized On-Off. Yeah. Like the others, it estimates points per 100 possessions added versus an average player, combining lineup data adjusted plus minus and box score stats, while trying to strip out some randomness from teammates making or missing open shots. For this one, I compared Brown's rating to that of his former Celtics teammates. According to LeBron, Jaylen Brown wasn't one of the four most impactful players on the Celtics. He rated behind Tatum, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and Neemias Queta. That's a real result, and it's fair to ask what it means for Brown's fit and standing on a team built around him going forward. We can come to similar conclusions as the last few metrics here. LeBron is measuring impact within a role, so Peyton Pritchard's role, push pace, shoot open threes, move the ball, and Neemias Queta's role, protect the rim, rebound, set screens, are both low mistake, high efficiency jobs that impact models tend to reward. Brown's role, as we've talked about, is closer to the opposite. Guarding the other team's best perimeter scorer, creating offense from a standstill, carrying a heavier shot creation burden. That combination tends to come with more turnovers and tougher shots than a specialist role does. LeBron is estimating influence on scoring margin within the role a player was actually asked to play. It is useful context, but not a final verdict on where Brown stands compared to teammates like Neemias Queta. Let's move quickly through these last two. Laker is an all-in-one impact metric built by analyst Neil Payne, drawing on ideas similar to 538's old Raptor metric, combining box score production with adjusted plus minus and team performance to estimate contribution to winning in points per 100 possessions above average. According to Laker, Brown ranks 62nd in the NBA. Matisse Thybulle, he ranks 6th. That's a big gap, but everybody knows Thybulle is an inferior basketball player to Jaylen Brown in every aspect, except for maybe defense and blocking. Thybulle is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. He also rarely touches the ball in offense. Those are exactly the low-risk, high-value contributions that impact metrics like this reward. Laker, like the others, is one input among several that teams use alongside film, scouting, playoff performance, roster fit. It's not a standalone verdict. And then there's 3-year RAP-M, or regularized adjusted plus minus, one of the oldest and most respected impact metrics in the NBA. In 3-year RAP-M, or however you say it, I don't really know, Jaylen Brown ranks around 283rd in the NBA with a rating of negative 0.5. Wow. That is a number that's hard to look past. A 4-time All-Star and Finals MVP rating outside the top 280 players in any stat is genuinely a rough result, and I don't think it should just get waved away. Unlike everything else on this list, RAP-M doesn't use box score stats, tracking data, or a model layered on top. It only asks one question: when this player is on the floor, after adjusting for teammates and opponents, how much does this team outscore the other team over thousands of possessions? Pure lineup results, nothing else. That simplicity is also its weakness. Rap M has no way to distinguish a difficult, self-created shot late in the clock from an open catch and shoot 3 off someone else's driving kick. Both just count as a possession. And because this is a 3-year stat, it mixes together different rosters, roles, and versions of Brown. Rap M helps shape nearly every modern impact metric, but on its own, it's noisy and heavily shaped by context, which is exactly why these other metrics are built on top of it, rather than sticking with it alone. When a pure lineup data metric disagrees this strongly with scouts, coaches, and any NBA fan, that's a real tension worth noting. Not proof the metric is broken, but not proof that Brown is either. Across all 5 metrics, there's a consistent pattern. They're measuring how much a player's presence moved the scoreboard, given the specific role he played and the specific teammates around him. That's a very useful thing. Unfortunately, Brown's career has been shaped by conditions that these models typically don't favor. Years next to another star, and a role built around difficult, self-created shots. We have to be fair to the numbers though. This isn't nothing. When multiple independent, well-built metrics all land somewhere between good starter and solid role player, that's a real signal, even if it's an incomplete one. It's possible some of this is measurement limitation. It's also possible it's picking up on real decline in efficiency or fit issues that are worth taking seriously. Both things can be true at once. Here's where I land. Jaylen Brown's resume: 4 All-Star selections, a championship, a Finals MVP, a track record of scoring at a great level, and defending multiple positions. That's real. I think he's a really great, accomplished player, and he will absolutely help this Sixers team, no doubt. But I'm not going to pretend that the advanced stats look great, because honestly, they don't. And pretending otherwise wouldn't be honest analysis. The truth is, advanced stats don't like Jaylen Brown's game whatsoever. But as he joins the Sixers with a new role, a new fit alongside Maxey and Embiid, a new coach with new schemes, who knows what these metrics are going to look like? They could undoubtedly change. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you the numbers are wrong. I'm going to tell you they're incomplete. They're worth watching, and the only way to actually find out how this trade looks is by watching Brown play in Philadelphia this upcoming year.